Welcome everybody to my talk about Angular PWA technology and pitfalls. Before we start, just some words about me. That's me, then doing the thing I love most, and that's traveling. I don't know exactly which beach that is, because I saw quite a few, but probably my wife could tell me, so anyhow. I'm a senior consultant and partner at 2bit. We are specialized at front-end development with Angular, and that's a tricky one. And architecture and technology consulting in this area. I myself, I'm a teacher at the University of Applied Science in Rapperswil and Lucerne, obviously about the Angular and web development topics. And I really love this part of my job because I love to pass know-how to other people, because that's very interesting. You learn a lot of things about the technology himself if you have to answer questions from other people. And I'm always looking, as you can see in this picture, for new inspiration, and that can be new frameworks, new libraries, or new versions coming out, which might inspire me to do some new things, and that's really great. I love that, to test out new things. So what we will do today, we first will have a look what are progressive web apps and why do we need them. So we will more start from an architectural standpoint, what are the possibilities and where PWA pops in. Then we will have a look at an existing PWA, so just that you get the feeling how PWA for a consumer will feel. So how is it on your phone, how will that work? And then we will build one together from scratch. So first, who of you guys are Angular developers? I assume most, is that right? Okay, perfect, more or less all. And who has already done some PWA stuff? Yeah, still quite a few. So maybe you already know some things and some pitfalls. We will really just build an app from scratch and go to the main topics. We will not dig too deep, not today. And we also learn about the requirements you will face and which will strongly lead you in the direction of a PWA and why you probably then choose a PWA. So before we start, let's do just some classification so that we know about which area we are now talking about development. Because if we want to go to the web, we have many possibilities, to mobile devices, we have many possibilities to do so. If we start at the left corner, we can go native. That is probably the choice we made 5 years ago for sure. We will go native. We will develop for iOS with Swift or Objective-C. We will do Java for Android. And yeah, for 5 years, there probably was still some Windows Phone. Today, we just probably will leave it out. So that is one possibility we have. Another thing would be, okay, we say, let's go hybrid. And there are very different scenarios you can go. There was if we talk about 5 years ago again, there was a thing called PhoneGap. It was very popular, especially in the Angular universe. Ionic, probably something you all know or you probably tested. And there's a possibility where you can build a web app and use native features because it's embedded in a native browser. And over a link there, you can just use features from the phone, like the phone address book and stuff like that, the camera. So that was possible 5 years ago with that. Another thing you could go if you say, okay, I don't want to have a web app because, for example, on phones, it might be a little bit slow, the response is not so good. You could go native UI. So that's a possibility where you say, okay, I still don't want to build native, so I want to have one single source code base where I work on. And there you have several possibilities. I will just mention two. React Native obviously comes to mind if we would do a lot of React stuff. And the opposite of that would be NativeScript. NativeScript, I don't know, does anyone know NativeScript? Who has already? Yeah, not too much. It's especially in Switzerland, it's not very popular. We are doing meetups about that too, so anyhow. NativeScript is the same as React Native. So for Angular, you will build an Angular application with NativeScript, and you have the full-fledged Angular framework in place. with some native script libraries. The only difference is instead of building the user interface with HTML, you will do it with XML, which is, yeah, if we think about it, quite close, because HTML, yeah, it's more or less a special XML schema. So you will do it with XML, and what will pop out in the end are two native applications. So we have a native user interface popping out, written in the specific language, and you got the native experience on your phone. So you will not have the issue that it might feel laggy or something like that if you have very very elaborate user interface. I mean, for example, we tested that, yeah, it's still 3 years ago or something. We just made a simple list with 1,000 items in it. I mean, obviously, you probably will not do that. You will use virtualizing and stuff like that. We just didn't care. We say, okay, we have a list, 1,000 items in it. How fast will it be on a mobile? We did one shot with a regular web app, and yeah, it was 3 years ago. It was quite laggy. So even just a list, no fancy list, just items, 1,000 items scrolling, and it was quite laggy. And we did the same with native script that time, and it was just fluent because the user interface was native for the phone, and you had no lagging and stuff like that, even with 1,000 items. And so that's a really big difference. I mean, our phones are getting stronger and stronger, so this difference will get smaller, but it still is a big difference, especially on budget phones. So this is about native UI, and the next thing would be cross-compiled. For example, with Xamarin, where you just say, okay, we take a whole different language and we just do it like there, and then an Android or iOS app will pop out. So that about hybrid. So now let's get to the part we probably are more interested in. That's the web part. And we have different possibilities there. We can just do a regular web app, which we just build mobile-first approaches, responsive, where you can use on your mobile phone. Or we can go PWA. And we will do that if we have special requirements like offline capabilities, using several different things, native things of a mobile device. And we will dig a little bit deeper into that. So that's just that you know classification on which area are we now currently working, or this talk is about. So we are about web development and PWA. Okay, so just in short, what makes a progressive web app different from a regular web application? So first of all, a progressive web app should be very fast. If we know that like 50% of the users will abandon your site if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load it, then it's fast is very important. Footprint is very important of your page, and you don't want to have any janky scrolling or something like that. Another very important thing is reliability. Your website needs to be reliable. It can't be that just because you have a connection drop or something like that, that you will lose everything and you have to start from scratch again, for example, with a new e-commerce shop or stuff like that. So, and the next thing is engaging. So we want to re-engage with the user. I mean, that's especially from a marketing perspective a very important point, because if we get the user to our website, we would like to interact with the user and attract him to come back. And this is not possible with just a regular web application, because yeah, you cannot reach him anymore if he has registered on your website. And with progressive web apps, there are some possibilities where you might reach him again. Okay, so let's just deep a little bit basic about how PWA technologies looks like. First of all, we have a browser client. Of course, it doesn't matter with which technology we will do that. We can use many different technologies for that, like Angular, React. You can use vanilla JavaScript if you like. I wouldn't recommend, but you can do it. It's a lot of coding, yeah, but it's possible, of course, because in the end, everything is vanilla JavaScript. And you need like a modern browser. And a modern browser means more or less every browser possible today. You should probably not use Internet Explorer. You will have very difficult times there. But except that, you probably can go with more or less everything. If you're not sure about your browser and what you can or what you can't, you just go to canIUseIt.com and you can check which capabilities of PWA are available on your browser or not. So what we in the next step need to make it work is a thing called service worker. We will come to that later and dig a little bit deeper why we need a service worker. And we need a manifest. And that's something similar like in the app development, you have a manifest too, where it describes things like the title, icons, splash screens, and stuff like that. So just additional meta information to have your site behave like an app. In addition, we have obviously a backend because we want to store stuff there. And we have the possibility to use push notifications. And for that, like we are used to if we do app development, we register the application to the push channel, and after that, the backend has the possibility to send dedicated pushes to the user or even broadcast. Okay, so that's the basic technology. And now, why are progressive web apps important, or where can they help you? And one point is for sure, it makes life much easier for you to get installed on a user's phone. For example, if we think at a regular app, it doesn't matter if iOS or Android, we somehow have to convince the user that he will install the app on his phone and use it. And for that, we have to go through several different steps. First, we have to attract him to go into the store and find our app. If he will not do that, he will never install our app. So, and during that, just go to the store and finding our app, we already lose 20% of the people doing that. Then we need to get him to install our app. And during that, we again lose like 20% for different reasons. For example, he has currently a weak connection, and our app is sadly like 100 megabytes big. So we probably will not wait 20 minutes until the app is downloaded. He will just say, "Ah, fuck the shit," and I take another app. And the next thing, if we get through that, he really has installed us, and we did already a really great job to going there, then we come to the part where we ask for permission. So we have an app, and then the app asks for permission. And I don't know how it is with you guys, but I usually just download the app, I open the app, and it asks me for permission like everything. And I was thinking like, yeah, but I just want to write text with this thing. I don't understand what the hell are these guys doing. And probably then I say decline, and I will deinstall the app, and the potentially customer is already lost. So it's very difficult. That's the next barrier. And if you're there, then the app opens, and then you have like 5 seconds to make a good impression. And if I just look at the app and think, what the hell is that? I will just deinstall the app again. And even so, you already came through all these steps and lost every time like around 20%. There is a very small amount of users which will just stay and use your app. And with progressive web app, you can make that much easier. I don't say you won't lose any, but it's much easier because the only thing you need to do, you need to get your users or potential customers to your website, and from that, it's just a click to install the progressive web app. So we don't have to go over the store and stuff like that, so it makes it much easier to get installed on the user. It will not help you that you need to provide an app which adds a benefit to the user's life and needs to look good and great and stuff like that, but it will make life easier for you to just get installed on the phone. So another thing is time to market. If we think about if we have an app and we need to bring it to the store, currently it's quite okay, but if I think like 3 or 4 years ago, especially with the iOS store, you had like 7 to 10 days until the review was through, and if then the review was, it's not okay, you need to fix this, this, and this, you went back fixing it, and you again waited like 10 days, which is quite sad if you want to bring new features and you just like lose a month because you can't publish it because of Apple. It's better now, it's like 1 or 2 days, or that's what I experienced last, but just it's important. With a progressive web app, it's just install the website. Usually this is under your control. Nobody will say, yeah, you can do that, you need to fix that. So it's just you have everything in your own hands, and you can have a really fast time to market. Re-engagement is the other important thing. Offline capabilities, so that your web app or your application, PWA, works even if there is no connection. I mean, it can happen. Even in Switzerland, you don't have everywhere connection, so it can be very important that it works offline. In our case, for example, we have customers in retirement homes, and they don't have Wi-Fi everywhere or connection everywhere, and you have to deal with it. They don't care if you need a connection that your website works. It just has to work. And if you have requirements like that, PWA is a really good choice. Another thing is PWA is installed on your home screen, so it feels like an app. It gets push notifications and is installed on your home screen, so the user gets reminded, I have an app there I can use, which is not happening with a regular website because there's maybe somewhere in the favorites bar of the browser, but for sure not on the home screen. So that's a very different scenario. Another thing is user experience. Of course, you relate there on the possibilities you have with web development. So you cannot do anything else, but you can use devices like, or device-specific functionality like camera, location, battery, and stuff like that, and it's getting more and more and more. Google is investing a lot of time, and especially in Chrome, to make more of this device-specific functionality available for PWAs. There's a little bit other story on other devices, but we will come to that later. Okay, so after we know now why a PWA might be interesting for us, we will talk about the technology behind it, and after that we will build our first PWA. So we will start with a little question. If you have something in a JavaScript, built in JavaScript, which is going very long and loads a huge amount of data and will do then a massive amount of DOM rendering, has any one of you a clue what probably will happen in your browser? So we have long loading cycles, and then we exchange more or less the whole DOM and render really a lot of stuff at the same time. What is the response of the browser? Yes?
No response, it will just block you.
Exactly. This is the response. The browser will tell you, oh well, we are currently unresponsive script because the script is using all your power, and the browser just freezes. At least we get this nice pop-up and can stop the script. But it will not help you in just running your website. So yeah, that's what we can do with just a single-threaded web technology. I mean, JavaScript is like all user interface technology, single-threaded. We cannot do it elsewhere. But that's the result. So what can we do about that? A lot of people thought about that, and then they came up with something called web workers. Who has already used web workers? Yeah, quite a few people already. Nice. So with web workers, it is possible, or you get the option to have parallelism in the web. So you can use, you don't have to use something like set timeout or set interval, which is currently was the only possibility to do something like pseudo-parallelism. I mean, it was not really parallel. It was just waiting until it can go further. And with web worker, we have that now. We can start multi-threading and run long-running processes in the web with web workers. And yeah, this makes it very cool, and this is a prerequisite that we even can think about PWAs. You will see later why. So how these things work, you have a website, and you will load your web worker, and you can communicate, your website can communicate with the web worker by posting messages and getting post messages back. So it's just a two-way messaging system between the user interface thread and the web worker. And with there, you can exchange information to get the results, for example, from a long-running task. So how does that look in code? It's quite easy. I mean, if we do something easy, it's quite easy. So we just add an event listener in the web worker to the message event, and then we can post back the result to the worker, to the main thread, which called us. We see here how it is possible to create the web worker. We will just say new worker and give as a parameter the script we want to run as a web worker. And after that, we start communicating with it by posting a message to the worker, here in example, hello world. And who can, if you have a look at this code, who can tell me what will pop out at the console log? Any ideas? I think it's quite doable. What will be the response we get from the web worker? So what will happen in the console log there?
Worker said hello world.
Yes, exactly. So this is what happens. Obviously, it's a very simple example, but you probably get what the story about this is. So we have now the possibility of multi-threading in the web, and we also have the possibility to communicate between these threads with a messaging system. And this is like the prerequisite for the next thing. We will have a look now, and this is the service worker. The service worker is a specific implementation of a web worker. The service worker lives in its own thread like the web worker too, and he has several additional capabilities. I mean, the only capability of a web worker is multi-threading. The service worker can do a little bit more. He has capabilities like offline, so you can have an offline ready application with the service worker. How this works, we will have a look at the later slide. And it's also possible to use push notifications with the service worker. So somehow there's a push channel in place we can use. And as mentioned, they're working really hard to enrich the service worker with additional functionality, and it's changing from time to time. So the service worker, or we can look at the service worker like a proxy, because every traffic the app generates or the website generates will go through this service worker, and the service worker will then decide if it gets out the information from the cache, or if it directly calls the backend live, or if it gets it from the cache and tries to refresh it over a call from the backend. So there are a lot like different possibilities you can use with the service worker. Something very important about this is you can only work with a service worker with HTTPS, and for obvious reasons, because since this thing is working offline, it would be great if we know from who this thing is coming and if it's trustworthy or not. So this is important for us if we are developing a PWA. The local host will work with HTTP, but as soon you want to test it in the real world, you need to have HTTPS. I mean, it's anyhow already standard, but just be aware of that because you will get nasty errors if you don't do that. Here just another picture how in detail this works. We see the application, and all the communication goes to the service worker, and the service worker, depending on its configuration, is then deciding, do I get it from the cache? And it can be like images, JavaScript files, JSONs, server calls, whatever. You can cache like everything, because obviously it's just a request and you get a response, and you can cache the response if you like to. And depending on the strategy, you probably will not go to the cache and will directly call the network to get the data live from your backend. So that's the cornerstone of a PWA. This service worker makes all this capability possible. We need to have like offline capability because of that, and obviously because of the multi-threading, we are now available in combination with the offline capability for push notifications, because we are something which is always registered, can be invoked by the browser to let us know about the push. The life cycle of a service worker is a little bit special. First he will get installed, so it goes in installing mode, and then he will be activated or go into an idle phase where he can fetch messages. That's like if you're not actively on the page, but you still get push notifications, and you obviously can be terminated. The difficulty in this case is, or about the states is, if you want to refresh your PWA, there's some, let's say not so obvious behavior. We will have a look at that later. I talked about the manifest. If you remember about the image we had at the beginning, what we need to make a PWA working, one thing was the service worker and the other thing were the manifest. And in the manifest, as mentioned, we will have things like the short name of the app, the name that's the one displayed on your home screen, icons, colors for the splash screen and stuff like that. It's not a full list of everything which is possible to configure, but it's just that you get the idea of this manifest. So that's just static information, how the PWA should look on your mobile device. Okay, then regarding the push API, the push API is officially standardized. I think it's not ratified yet, but it's ready. And it's implemented in more or less every browser which supports PWA. And we only have like one exception, which is a little bit bad, and that's the iOS Safari. I will talk about that a little bit later. The interesting thing is, on a regular Safari it would work. But on the iOS, it's currently not possible. But there are other limitations there, and we will talk about that later. Okay, how in general the push notification works, we will have a look during the live coding we do, but it's like the same you use for app development. You just register your token, and then you get with this push token notifications which you display on the device. And obviously, the token is bound, or the push channel is bound to the device. So just if you activate push on device A, you will not get pushes on device B. But it's the same with the smartphones, because just you register the channel to a specific device and not the global channel, and it magically broadcasts to all your devices you have, because they cannot know that. Okay, so how just with vanilla JavaScript looks this push thingy? It's a quite easy interface, and it's like the same, or it's like the messaging between a web worker. So we just register to the push event, and then we will get the data, and we can show notifications and stuff like that. On the other side, we will see how the registration works. We will use the push manager if during the registration phase of the PWA, and we subscribe there to get the push token, and this push token we will send to the backend. So just more that you see a little bit how it works in code. Okay, so we want now to make a presentation, or I want to show you how PWA behaves and how it feels for a user. Let me just check. For that, I'll use the emulator, because you cannot, you need like to have a smartphone. So PWA will not behave the same way on a PC than on a mobile phone in small things. Of course, on a PC you can get push notifications too. But obviously you have no home screen there, you will not install the app on the home screen and stuff like that. So the experience is a little bit different, and therefore I want to show it to you on the emulator. So what we will do now, we will go to a website of ours, which is a PWA, and you will already see the difference. Let's go here. We go to the PWA, and it's like a regular website. The only difference we have here, let's just, we have here is, we got this thing here, if you can see it. So this, if I click on that, the PWA will get installed on your device. So if you think about what we have to go through to get an app installed on your device, this is quite easy. Just get the customer on your side. He will get, at least on Android, the pop-up to install it on the device. You click Add to Home Screen, and there we go. And then we can stop and check, and here it is. So we have now installed the PWA on our device. We don't see a difference here between that and any regular app. It just looks the same. We can open this thing. We have a splash screen, and then, that's generous, So, and then we can log in. And of course we're then on the regular website. What I want to do now, and I hope this works, and I did not break anything while cleaning all this stuff, is how it looks like, or how a push notification will feel. I will try now to generate the push notification with sending a file to the user just installed the app. I think it's that user. So, and I hope we will get the notification. Yes, we got it. You see here, that's the push notification, the up part. So even here, you will not see a difference between a regular app or a PWA. I mean, we didn't have the PWA running. I explicitly closed the app, so the app was not running anymore. Even so, we got the push. We can customize the content, of course, how the push notification should look like. I can click on it, and it opens at the right place, as we are used to from a just regular app. Okay, so this gives you a first impression how this works, how PWA works on a phone. So what we will do now, we will build our own PWA, and I was thinking a lot how or what kind of PWA we shall build. And I thought a lot about it, and in the end I came out with, okay, let's do a to-do application. Because we are all used to to-do application, and it's very simple. We can get a basic structure, and then we will transform this existing to-do application into a PWA. So this is like the starting point. We just have a regular application. We can add to-dos, we can select to-dos and deselect them. It's nothing fancy, and we don't care about the functionality. But this is the starting point. It's developed as an Angular single-page application, and we will then, step by step, start transforming this to a PWA. So let's have a look. Let's say here. So it's already running. You can see here, yeah, it's just a regular application, and it more or less works. Okay, so if we go further, we will now look at the first requirement we have. And the first requirement is, okay, I have a to-do application, and it would be nice I can use it offline, because maybe I have no cellular collection or anything like that, and I want to use the to-do application, I don't know, in the basement and stuff like that, and say, yeah, I did that because I had, I don't know, to clean my car and I have no connection there. So that's the first requirement, and now we are thinking about what can we do. We have a single page application, and I mean, with just a single page application, the only possibility we have to make this possible is if he loads the page before he goes in the basement where he has no connection, and that's quite a bad scenario, because usually you don't know that you are on the way somewhere where you will not have any connection. So we have to think about something different. And we will do so, and for that we will now change the application just a little bit. And Angular makes it really easy for us. The only thing we need to do, and that's quite simple, we will just add the Angular PWA library with Angular schematics. So what happens now? It will install the npm package, obviously, Angular PWA, but also the schematics will run. It's now already transforming your application into a PWA. So we did like, yeah, we typed in 3 words, hit enter, waited a few seconds, we will now build it again. And we have already a running PWA. We will check that right now. We reload, as soon as this is done, our current page and check if it's already offline capable, because that's what we expect. We have now a service worker. The service worker will cache all the scripts we have, and then we have a running PWA. So it would be like 5 seconds with an existing Angular application to transform it into PWA. So the build, yeah, we all know it takes some time. And that's another important point. You can only use the PWA if you do production builds. So you cannot test it with ngserve, because there the service worker will not be deployed. I mean, it obviously makes no sense, because everything works in a Webpack dev server, which is not persisted anywhere. So you need to do prod builds to test it. Usually it doesn't matter, because to implement the feature of the site, you can use ngserve just to test the capabilities of the PWA. You have to do a production-ready build. So let's do that. We reload the page, and nothing happens because this is bad. Okay, so we reloaded the page, and what we will see now in the network monitor, or we won't see, why ever? Yeah. So we saw here this cache bus, so it updated now the cache and installed the PWA. And we would assume now if we go offline, this still works. Let's check that. Yeah, it works. Well, we lost the images, but who cares? It works. But the difference now, if we go online again, here we have initially some items. If we reload it in case we are offline, the items are gone. Has anyone an idea why this could happen? Yes.
If you had the request over a post request instead of get, and it was not sent to the cache.
Yes, exactly. So we will have a look at our NGSW configuration, and we will see here, okay, what shall be cached? And we see, okay, our JSON file, which we have here in the assets folder, mock data, is not cached yet. Okay, so we'll change that and say, okay, easy as pie, just please cache our JSON. Now the great thing we can do, we have to build it again and check if this works. What we would expect now, if we go online again, reload the application, it should start caching the initial input, and if we go offline, we should have the initial to-do items ready there. So let's check that. It should not take too long. Or it does. Okay, so we'll go online again. We will wait until this thing is finished. Okay, perfect. So let's reload the application. Okay, so the cache is updated. So we will go offline now, reload the site again. And what we see here, the two items are there. So exactly as mentioned, the issue was we didn't configure the cache right for the service worker to cache this JSON file. We fixed that. And so now our application is already fully offline capable. So this is great. Now let's just change the title of our application because it is now a real PWA. So let's start that. Let's build it again. And then reload the page and let's see what happens. So what we would expect now, of course, if we stay offline, nothing will change because how should it? If we go online, we would expect the title to change because we just changed it in our code. If I pressed store, yes, which I did. So great. Let's just wait. So it's closing in. Perfect. Okay, so let's reload the site. We see no difference right now. Has anyone idea what happened here? Yes.
The cache hit.
Exactly. It just first, I mean, obviously, if the PWA is loaded, it will take everything from the cache. And it will update the cache after that because you won't have a fast load of the page. You don't want to wait until everything is loaded again from the backend. So what it does, it starts the service worker and gets everything from the cache, and in behind it gets checks if there are any new files. It needs to update the PWA, and if so, all these files are downloaded, and a new service worker is generated which goes into idle state. And he waits that long until the old service worker is going dead, and then the new service worker will work. So we can force that if we just hit F5 again, because then we reload the page again, and then the new service worker will pop in. So let's check that. Yeah, there it is. So we have here like an obvious caching issue because we are first using the old stuff, and after that we can replace it with the new service worker. And we will see at a way how we can fix that or change that. Another important thing regarding PWAs is a PWA can only be installed if all the files you say it should cache are loaded successfully. This means if you have a lot of files, chances will be higher that one of the files cannot be downloaded by ever, and you will not get the PWA installed. because if one of a million files fails, the whole thing fails. It's not like it decides, okay, I don't care about this file, I will just cache all the others. It's like all or nothing. So that's important to know. So don't cache too many files, or don't force to cache automatically too many files. You can do lazy loading for a lot of other things, but don't eager load too much, because else your PWA will not get installed. Okay, so let's go further with that. Yeah, we brought back the items. So we see here again how this thing exactly works. If you are debugging, what is important that you see this thing here, the cache bus. So you know at this point the service worker detected a new version and loaded this new version, and this new version is now ready as soon as you reload the page. Or you can change the update strategy, but this might be odd too. There are different ways we can manage that. What usually would do is, after the browser checks for the update and the service worker recognizes that there is an update, we will ask the user by a notification, hey, we have a new version of the application ready. Do you want to reload? That's one way to go, and from my point of view, the most user-friendly, because the user can decide if he wants to reload now, and it's not forced to reload, or you reload it behind his back. So it's probably, for me, it's the best possibility. But the other possibilities are there too. You can just say, I don't notify him, it will be done automatically next time. Or you can enforce it, and it will be done by the browser, and the user will not know that it happened, which might be awkward because he opens the thing, there will be a little flash, and then everything changes. Depending on what the update is, of course, but that could happen. So I would go with the way of giving the user the choice if he wants to continue on the old service worker and the old side and reload it next time, or just reload it right now. And this is the next step we kind of want to do and we want to make happen. So let's go there. We go back into the code. Yeah, that's great. That's even better. Okay, so we go back into the code, and what we need now, we need to generate an update service. And we have a workshop we do like 2 days where we do all these things, and one day with vanilla JavaScript, and on the other day with Angular, and we will see here Angular really gives you a very great framework for PWAs, because you don't have to do much to make this happen. If you will do that with vanilla JavaScript, you have to do quite some coding. So we will start now and generate the service. Service within the to-do services. We call it update service. I have a typo? Oh, yes. Thank you very much. To-do services, update, and then in the project to do, let me see, plus S. Hopefully it will generate something. Yeah, that's great. So we just don't do that. I think it's a default project. At least it will have a default project. Yeah, great. Let's do it manually. So we have here update service TS. So we have here a service, so it's injectable. Provide in root. Because we don't want to register the service, he should be available all the time. Can you read it, by the way? Okay. Okay, so we will now do everything like eager loaded. I mean, obviously in the real world, you probably will find better ways to do that, but we want to have the code as short as possible, and I don't want to like hack here like an hour. So we just do it in a constructor, and Angular provides us a service, and it's called SW update. We can inject here, and we will inject the snack bar. Let's snack bar from material design. So here obviously I have a typo, provided. Nice. Okay, so what we need to do now, great. We need to check if there are any updates available. And we can do that very easily. We check available, and then we subscribe on that. And we say event. Okay, let's check this. Okay. So, and of course, if there is an update available, we want to give the user the possibility what he wants to do. For that, we open in the snack bar a new toast saying snack bar open. Oops, new version available, and we want to have a button there calling reload. And if the user clicks on the reload button, we obviously want to reload the page, and then the new version of the PWA is available. So we will do here on action, subscribe. Yeah, we don't care about that. Okay. And then we will just reload the page. Very easily. So as mentioned, there are more sophisticated ways to do that, but that's one easy way to do. And then that this service is available, we need to inject it into our component so that it will be initialized, because else the service obviously will only be registered and nothing happens. Service, so. Okay, so I hope I did not make too many mistakes, but anyhow, Angular will tell me anyway quite shortly. So what we have now, we have a service which checks for updates. So we get notifications if there's a new version available of our PWA. We render a toast to the user saying, okay, we have a new version ready, do you want to reload? And if the user presses reload, the new version is loaded with a page refresh, and he should see the new application. So what we do now, we build it again. We will reload the site to ensure we have the update mechanism now in place, and then we have to do a change so we have a new version and check if this works out. So let's reload this. And what we do now, we just change, for example, the title. Here, PWA refresh example. Now let's check that one. I assume the page is now refreshed successfully, so we will build it again. And then let's hope it works. Then the toast should appear telling us we have a new version of our service worker, of our PWA, and if the user wants to refresh it or not. So let's check this. It always takes ages. And we're already lucky because I disabled all the optimization stuff and so like this, because if we won't do that, we would wait like every time 2 minutes or something. And yeah, it will get really boring. So let's check this one. Nothing happens, that's bad, that's really bad. No, it happened. Yeah, and I made a typo, nice. Anyhow, but you get the idea. So we have now the update service, and we took the SW update service Angular provided for us. So we had to do like nothing. We just have to subscribe ourselves to if there is an update available. And in that case, we put out with the snack bar this toast. And we just see here the alt title. We hit reload, and ta-da, there is the new PWA. So that's a very easy way how you could provide updates to your users. And as mentioned, Angular makes this very easy. I can tell you, if you want to develop that vanilla JavaScript style, it's a little bit more code than these few lines. So let's go further with our requirements. And when we made now the whole thing offline capable, and the next thing would be, okay, I want to get notified if anyone changes my to-do. I mean, it would be obvious if multiple persons are using the app, the to-do app, you probably won't share the events when someone has done something and stuff like that. It would be obvious. Of course, we will not fully implement this feature because we would need a backend for that, and we won't do that. But we just want to implement an easy push notification service just to show how it would work if we want to do that. And there again, I mean, obviously Angular will be a big help for us if we're doing that. So I will just make a new service, and I will call it push service. And since I'm lazy, I will just copy this one. And then we have to write some lines. So push service. Of course, we don't need this one, but we will use like the same mechanics. We don't need the SW update now in this case, but we need the SW push service provided by Angular. And now, since it's already quite late, I get a little bit lazier. So I prepared some snippets because it's not a few lines anymore. It's not much, but it's a little bit more. Yeah, this function is missing. This is bad. We will go through the code right now.
I think you missed an import on constructor.
The import?
Before there was something.
Here, yes. Then let's go through the code a little bit. So what we need to do first, we need to acquire a push subscription. For that, you need a server public key. You can generate this one with the npm package web push or anything you like. You need just to generate this key so that it goes to your specific push channel and you can register it. And after that, you acquire the subscription. And with the subscription, you obviously you need to register yourself if there is a push or is an incoming push, and then you need to decide what should happen if the user clicks on the push. We just make it here very basic. We just take, I think, yeah, just any to-do item and say it's checked. Of course, you would do something more realistic with your push notification, but just to keep it simple, we'll do something like that. What we now need to do is to ensure again that the eager loading is working. So we will just add this service here. Private push service. Push service. Okay, we will store everything right now, and we will reload this thing. We have again to build. What is important, what kind of fucked me up at the uphill, you have here a notification center, if you can see, and I wasn't aware of, I mean, I was aware that there is a notification center, but I wasn't aware this notification center has kind of a limit. And if you are testing your push notifications, obviously you will generate pushes, and each push will go into this nice push notification center if you're working on Windows. And the maximum is like 20 or 30, I don't know. And if you are not having this in mind, it will just get wide. And after this 30 message, you will not receive any push anymore. And you will receive it, but you will not get notified. And then you are thinking like, why the crap is this push not working anymore? I didn't change anything. And it's not like it's not working, it's just your notification center is full. So maybe keep that in mind, because yeah, it cost me quite some time. It was like 2 hours. I was like, why isn't it working? And yeah, lucky me, I was testing before the presentation if it works, and there it was still working because I had not yet had these 30 push messages. And after that, yeah, I got them. It was quite an impression for me. Anyhow, let's check this one. We have to reload this thingy. We would now expect again, after the cache bust, yeah, we have to reload it again. And now a push handler should be available. No provider, nice. We imported the wrong to-do service.
Or you forgot the provider name.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's probably registered in the wrong module and not in the root, and therefore it's not finding it. So we'll just fix that right now. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's double registered, who cares? Yeah, we'll build it again. While we wait for the build, I will show you the push thing afterwards. So PWA supports push notification, and this is really like kick-ass because you can do really nice stuff interacting with your customers during these channels. They can interact. Even if the to-do application, we could share the state between many different users and update it even if the app is not open. So that's really great. So PWA is really the savior of it all. I mean, we could think like that because it will fix all our problems. We don't need to do an app. We have push notifications. We are offline ready. It's easy to install. It sounds really nice. Yeah, for a great deal, it is really nice, but it's not all really perfect because we have like a dark side, and currently this dark side, yeah, is like fruit and looks like an apple, and there we really have some problems. We have push notifications which are not supported on iOS, I mentioned. I mean, Apple implemented it for Mac OS X, so it works there. They made it possible to implement it in their own way, so you can reuse your code you would use for any other browser. That's nice, but at least it works. So that's a big flaw on iOS from my point of view, because push notification, of course, is a great advantage. There are other flaws. Offline capabilities is kind of working strangely on iOS. It now works more or less, but it can be possible that your PWA gets installed twice, which is quite bad. And even device functionality is not as widely available as on Android. And you really see there that Android is pushing it much more, of course, because I mean it's Google Tech and Google is pushing it. And Apple is not doing a lot. And of course, I mean, the intention, or Apple has not much to gain in making this available because their App Store will lose a lot of popularity, which is a big deal for them because they make a great deal of money there. So it's quite understandable, but for us as a developer, it's really sad. So we still have there a way to go. Let's check now if our application works. Yeah, it's still not working. However, we will not deal more with that. I will just show you how it would look if you want to send a push, because that's really easy. We have here our application window, and we can send over our Google Chrome tools push notifications. And yeah, I don't know the format right now, but you can now send the message in a way you like, in the proper JSON, and then the push handler will receive it. Yeah, that's nice. Will receive it, and you will see the push notification. So it's really easy to test push notifications. You don't need to have a server in place and stuff like that. You really can do it over the Google Chrome tools. So that's about that. Yeah, I have here a short video regarding the experience on iOS, and that would be more or less the last thing we do, and then we will go to the beer. And I will just point out the difference we have. I mean, in this case, the first difference is we saw on Android this nice notification, do you want to install me? Forget it on iOS. You have to do it by your own. It will, after that, be offline. It will have offline capabilities. But you need to do it by your own. It is for a regular user, yeah, it's not very obvious to do it. Or I think it's not very obvious. Yeah, that's nice captures. Anyhow, the next thing is what we see. It will get installed on your phone. I had this now at two-way factor authentication. That was another issue with the previous iOS, because Apple implemented it in a way that if you resume the app will get reloaded. And if we think about that feature in a way of two-factor authentication, it's really nice, because I log me in, then I need to point or give in the code I get from Google Authenticator, for example. So I have to switch the app. I now have the key, I switch back, and the page gets reloaded, and I can log in again. And yeah, this works really greatly. You will find videos from Twitter, how this looks like, and yeah, that's really bad. Another thing is, I don't know if you saw it, they fixed this bug, and the page is now not reloaded anymore if you resume the app, but instead it will keep its state. So this means if I close the app and open the app again, I will be again at the point I was before closing the app, which is not really obvious, because I was doing something there, and if I restart an app, I would expect to land on the landing page. That's why it's there. Yeah, currently not on iOS. So there is really quite a way to go, but it will get better. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have further questions, yeah, we can talk about it, buy a beer or something like that. I will stay here for a while. We have a workshop for this at the 16th and 17th October, where we have a deeper look into PWA. We will do it one day, vanilla JavaScript, to understand the concepts, and then we will elaborate a little bit more in the things you just saw in this presentation. So yeah, thank you very much for having me here, and yeah, have a great evening. Thank you.